Have you ever had a moment like this? The whole world is on fast forward, but your life seems stuck in another time zone. 8 years ago, I was relegated to a slow time zone because of illness. For a long time, I couldn't willingly stay in that slow pace because I really wanted to return to that seemingly normal world. Only in the last year or two have I realized that the so-called normal world is fake. There is no absolute normality, only different frequencies of life. No one really falls behind, everyone just has their own time zone. In 2025, I finally learned to live peacefully with my illness. I feel like I found just the right balance, not self-pitying, not pessimistic, but also not relying on sheer luck. I discovered that as long as I expelled the toxins from my mind, even if my body was relatively fragile, I could live a stable and unburdened life. To remember this feeling, I made this video, compiling 9 experiences of coping with illness, which I call the philosophy of happiness for survival. It's about how to maintain stability, peace of mind, and happiness when the body has problems or even gets out of control. 1. Allow yourself to retreat, don't force yourself, because retreating with the goal of protecting the body is a glorious thing. When I was a child, I was deeply impressed by the scene of Sirius Black's death in Harry Potter. He was cursed and fell to the other side of the veil, never to return. Actually, having an irreversible disease feels a bit like that. It's like a veil abruptly separated 2 worlds. No one wanted to come over. Once you come, you can never go back. When I was first diagnosed, I was very uncertain about the future. There are only a few thousand cases of this rare disease nationwide, and not many doctors understand it. I thought the safest thing to do was probably to stay in a big city. After all, it has the best medical resources. I also wanted to prove that I was still useful and valuable, so I worked very hard, pretending that nothing was wrong. Later, because of the onset of the disease, I went to the hospital more and more frequently, and my body was gradually overdrawn. I had to admit that I could no longer keep up with that fast-paced world, especially since my disease would sometimes flare up without warning. The experience I had accumulated before was no longer useful. That feeling of helplessness, of not being able to find a point of leverage, was very desperate. Later, I stopped working, left the expensive big city where I had lived for many years, and returned to my hometown. This retreat was initially only physical. Even after leaving my job, I couldn't stay idle at first. I wrote every day. I thought if I just quietly wrote what I wanted to write, that should be fine, right? But the result was ridiculous. As long as I exerted any effort, even just mental effort, my body would have problems, forcing me to lie down. This kind of effort wasn't just physical labor. It might just be the desire to finish an article this afternoon, or get something done today. As long as I used my willpower, it counted as exertion. Maybe it's because trying to force myself to accomplish something when my body is relatively weak causes tension and builds up stress, which then stops the process of repair. It's so weird, so frustrating, but I have no choice but to keep retreating. This time it's a complete retreat, not just physically but also mentally, to let go of that habit of forcing myself to do things. Looking back on this retreat that took several years to complete, I can say that during this process, my social self repeatedly tested and probed my sick self. She repeatedly tempted me, saying that if I just persevered a little longer, I could still return to the other side of the veil. Now I'm not so easily fooled. My survival principle is to allow myself to retreat at any time, to retreat from a dissipating environment, to retreat from overloaded desires and ambitions. Because pursuing things and trying to act tough regardless of your physical condition is the most toxic thing. 2. Goodbye, social conditioning. Proudly be a weirdo. Refuse to objectify yourself, forget the social clock, and don't worry about what others think of you as abnormal. It's been over a year since I completely opted out of the race. Sometimes I feel trapped in this body. There are so many things I dare not or cannot do, so I can only accept that my life is very simple and boring. I can only do the safest things: sunbathing, walking, breathing exercises, grocery shopping, cooking, and drinking lots and lots of water to reduce energy fluctuations. Since my energy is limited, I won't overexert myself anymore. Instead, I'll use all my energy to maintain stability, keeping my emotions, hormones, and core stable. Since I've chosen to retreat, I might as well stay in the rear with a clear conscience, living a low speed, low energy, low desire, and low fluctuation life. Anyway, I'm no longer pretending to be someone on the other side of the veil. Before, I worried that since I have a rare disease, what if my health deteriorates after leaving the big city? Doctors in small towns would be helpless after seeing my scans. This kind of gap was something I wanted to avoid, but after actually experiencing it, it's not as bad as I imagined. And luckily, I found a suitable doctor in a nearby city. More importantly, because I was away from the source of stress, my body wasn't as tense as before and was slowly improving. The best medical resources should be the kind of environment where you can live well without needing medical resources. However, it's not hard to lie down comfortably for a weekend, but it's actually hard to get used to lying flat and doing nothing for a month, half a year, or a year. In the past, I cared about the social clock and lived in a kind of evaluation anxiety. Once I had nothing to do, I felt a little lost. So this illness came to cure all my social conditioning, to tell me not to live a life that is perfectly in sync with the social clock, to be able to define my own clock, not to compare answers with others, and even to change my way of life because of it. Since the world has closed that door to me, then I'll just be a weirdo in the wilderness. 3. Take it slow, there's no rush. The doctor diagnosed my illness as a low-grade malignant tumor. It really doesn't sound like a good thing. But one day it suddenly occurred to me that maybe decades later, after more in-depth research, doctors would discover that the previous diagnosis was actually exaggerated. They might think that as long as you maintain a good mood and take your meds regularly, this disease is just like a regular chronic illness. What if I believed the current diagnosis? Wouldn't that be a pity? So I decided to rehearse this great discovery, pretending it has already happened, and treat this disease as a regular chronic illness. So how do you deal with a chronic illness? The first step is to consciously accept that healing will be a very slow process. Only by slowing down can you truly relax, and only then will the magical energy of self-healing emerge. It's like you've already muddied a glass of water. Now you need to give it time to calm down and restore its clarity. Impatience is a very destructive energy. Once you're in a hurry, it's difficult to maintain a stable condition. And as long as you stay within the mainstream social evaluation system, it's hard not to feel anxious and rushed. Impatience is the enemy of the body's repair. Before I couldn't stay still. Subconsciously, I feel that not doing anything is laziness. For someone accustomed to a fast pace, accepting that they are inefficient is not easy. However, physical recovery follows a logic completely opposite to societal efficiency. Only by letting go of the obsession with efficiency can the efficiency of physical recovery increase. If we go by the social clock, I have wasted a great deal of time that could have been used for many other things. But without this waste, my energy wouldn't have recovered, and I wouldn't be here making this video. The time wasted on recovering energy isn't truly wasted. Why is slowing down beneficial to health? Because time is the best medicine. Slowing down means using time to heal yourself. Time is fair to everyone. If time has been cruel to you, it will eventually be kind to you. 4. Keep things mild to stay stable. Besides slowing down, illness has also taught me to let go of stress. I try to avoid things that cause significant emotional fluctuations and maintain a relatively stable state. I do breathing exercises daily and supplement my nutrition to keep my emotions as stable as possible. I consciously silence the noise of the outside world, avoid paying too much attention to things that trigger desires, keeping my happiness mild and my sadness mild too. Because my body is weak, I shouldn't get entangled with strong emotions. I should learn to find balance. When I'm feeling pessimistic and inadvertently fall into self-pitying narratives and my emotions are overflowing, I remember to be a bit ruthless with myself. I tell myself, what's the big deal? Stop being so dramatic. No need to stage a play in your head. Snap your fingers and shatter this self-created illusion. When I'm brimming with confidence and feeling great, ready to go all out, I don't let the illusion of being completely cured carry me away. I tell myself, slow down, it's okay. Adjust that heightened frequency back to a gentler one. Also, I avoid arguing, getting angry, and quarreling, as these are very energy-consuming and harmful to the body. Although it sounds like there are limitations, the core is filtering, identifying what makes your breathing shallow and your heart rate increase, what makes you relax, and who is toxic and must be avoided. I realize what kind of energy is beneficial and healthy, and then prioritize protecting this energy, prioritizing physical stability and happiness in all my choices.